Welcome to the Communication Diva Podcast, episode 124. Today's topic, the power of positivity. In the immortal words of Herm Albright, a positive attitude may not solve all your problems, but it will annoy enough people to make it worth the effort.
Welcome to the Communication Diva Podcast. I'm Jenn Swanson, and I'm really glad that you are here with me today. I was thinking that it was just a little bit ironic that I'm talking about positivity today because I have been trying for more than 24 hours to book a flight to California to attend the Podcast Movement Conference this summer in Anaheim, and it doesn't seem to matter what website I'm on. Every single time I get all the way through filling everything out and putting in my credit card and waiting for the payment to process, the result comes back either unable to process or that flight is no longer available or the price has suddenly just gone up by more than $100. So remaining positive while wasting all this time trying to do this one thing that seems relatively simple seems to be very challenging. So I was kind of laughing a little bit about the irony of this morning. So we'll see if I'm ever able to actually book something or not. But my disillusionment with the airline industry right now is growing. And I find this really frustrating that they advertise these deals, they advertise the price, but then once you get into it, you realize that it's not actually the case. And either they don't have those flights or the price that they've advertised isn't actually accurate. Anyway, we'll see. I'm hoping that I'm able to do that soon, so I can get to Podcast Movement. I'm very excited about that. However, there are still many, many things to be grateful for and positive about. And today I wanted to look at the power of positivity and how practicing it, and I don't mean in the la Pollyanna-ish sort of way, but in a way that will bring good things into your life and especially into your career. I want to talk about how practicing positivity will do such as that. There's an old quote by Henry Ford, and you've probably seen this, it's been around for a very long time, that says something like, and I'm not probably saying it exactly right, but it says something like, if you think you can't or you think you can, you're right. Might be whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. And so one thing I've been reminded of lately is how addicted to my own thoughts I am and how much energy and time that addiction takes up. So the thing is, these old thought loops that we have going around and around and around in our heads are actually neural pathways in our brains, like grooves in a record for those of you who remember records, or like well-worn hiking trails that people stick to when hiking around a lake, for example. The pathways are comfortable, they're clear, they're familiar, and they're really, really easy to follow. And that's kind of what our thinking is like in some cases. When you get onto that rut, onto that route, into that groove where you think the same thoughts, negative thoughts over and over and over again. And the thing is that our thoughts are mostly not even true. Our thoughts are our own stories that we have made up, sometimes partly true, but mostly made up of stories, of projections, of evidence we have gathered to support our own untested theories. And so when you decide to really take a look at these thought loops, to take them apart and to analyze them, to dig into them a little bit, they often fail the inspection. So think about that. We are addicted to our own thoughts. And that's absolutely true. I have been fascinated by the work of Byron Katie for a long time now. She does something called just simply the work. And that, along with the training that I've done in the past in neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, has really made it clear to me that we don't spend a lot of time in the present moment. At least I don't. And that's a real shame, because the present moment is all that we have. The past is over, and the future hasn't happened yet, so it's unknown. And when we waste energy worrying, waste emotions, waste brain power, and sometimes physical exertion on the stories we loop about when what went on in the past or what might go on in the future. We're wasting so much. We're wasting so much time. We're wasting so much energy. We're wasting emotion. We're getting riled up and worked up about things that might not even be true. And I know that it's hard because there is so much to be negative in the world about right now. There's a lot of headache. There's a lot of injustice. There's a lot of rotten, negative, tragic, and scary stuff unfolding. And it's relatively easy to get lost in all of that and to spin wheels in the dirt. And what would that accomplish? I read a quote last Sunday in the sermon that I preached. The quote is by a Swiss psychologist and psychoanalyst, Carl Jung, who said, "Space flights are merely an escape, a fleeing away from oneself, because it is easier to go to Mars or to the moon than it is to penetrate one's own being." I'm going to read that again because I think it's really an important statement. Space flights are merely an escape, a fleeing away from oneself, because it is easier to go to Mars or to the moon than it is to penetrate one's own being. I think that's true. I think that is painfully true. It is far easier for us to wail away about all the horrible things going on in the world and to lay blame and to point fingers and to feel all self-righteous about things. That is so much easier than it is to take a good hard look inside our own beings to see what could be worked on, what could be improved to bring about more compassion in the world, to bring about more kindness, to bring about more love, and to bring about more positivity. That's hard work. That's really hard work because it actually might work and it actually might change how we are and how we affect the rest of the world. So if everyone did that, if everyone really dug deep and did that inner work, even just sometimes or even just once in their lifetime, can you imagine the difference in the world? Can you imagine the possibility? So what power does positivity actually have? And given that we can't fix or change anyone other than ourselves, where do we begin? Well, first of all, let's look at why negativity is counterproductive and might well be harming both your life and your career. Imagine yourself having a great day. And this has actually happened to me. It may have happened to you before, I don't know. But imagine yourself, you're having a great day, everything's good. You walk into a doctor's office for a checkup or maybe a place of business where you want to buy something, and you are greeted by a miserable-sounding, grumpy person behind the desk or the counter. It's happened, right? It's happened to me. So what does that do to your mood? What does that do to the whole atmosphere of the room full of people waiting, either the waiting room of the doctor's office or, people waiting to be served on in the store? Energy is contagious. And so if a person is happy and fun and pleasant and laughing, people around catch on to that and often gravitate toward that person. But a negative person has a certain energy that is repelling. And I find that people who are constantly negative, I find them absolutely draining to be around. I often will avoid certain topics around that person if I know that they're a negative person, topics that will just fuel more negativity and spark more unpleasant thoughts. And I work very hard not to be dragged down myself into the spiral of either a bad mood or a negative swirl of thoughts. Thoughts are thoughts. And what I'm suggesting is that if you find yourself trapped in that pattern of negative thinking on a regular basis, you may want to try working on shifting that, even just to see what happens, if you can do it sometimes, or if you can do it once in a while. Because I think it's a powerful thing to be more self-aware and to notice when you are spiraling into that swirl of negativity. It is catchy, and other people around you will be affected by the way you are putting out your energy in the world. Some of the side effects of negativity in the workplace, and this is significant, include the effect it has on creativity. Negativity will stifle creativity. It diminishes or even shuts down possibility, which is a profound thing to have happen in the workplace, especially if you're looking to be more productive in the workplace. Negativity affects motivation. It's really hard to be motivated if you're grumbling and griping and grumpy and feeling rotten all the time. Or if you're working with others who are doing that, it can be really hard to feel motivated as a team or as a group. Negativity can have a drastic effect on communication. And on the increase in conflict situations, it can be really difficult to have good communication, good, clear communication with someone if they are constantly being negative. It might be that you'd rather not talk to that person, which is no communication. So it can have an effect on communication, and it can increase conflict. Negativity also makes working with others more of a challenge. Nobody wants to work with someone who is always negative. Again, it's exhausting and it's absolutely no fun. And the morale of a team can be completely ruined, which, can lead to things like suspicion, mistrust of one another, arrogance, unhealthy competition, and even things like defamation, gossip, nasty rumors going around. Stress days and sick leave can increase when negativity is the constant common theme of the day. And in some cases, workplaces will lose really good people who can't handle the toxicity of the place any longer. So this positivity and negativity is not woo-woo stuff. This is real. And it has anything from mild to completely destructive consequences for both individuals and for entire workplaces. Of course, there are very good reasons that people might feel negative sometimes at work. I've had that experience. I'm sure you have. You can't be happy, joy all the time. But if it's a constant state of being, if the negativity has infected the whole culture, then it will take intentional work on the part of more than just one person, but on the part of the whole team, on the part of the management, on the part of the leadership to change that culture. But to start with, the only person you can ever change is you. And so you do have the power to make a difference. You can hand that power over to others, which we all do sometimes. You can hand the power over to the situation or the circumstance, and you can always find great evidence to support your story. But in the end, your very own thoughts are what are causing you the emotional upset, regardless of what is actually happening. And this is huge. Sustained stress and turmoil has physical results, and quite literally, you can make yourself sick if you're not taking care of dealing with the negativity that is in your life. So what can you do about all this? Well, the very first step, as with any condition in life, is just to notice. Every single spiritual teacher or guru or even physician or health and wellness guide will tell you that identifying the issue is step number one before you can figure out what to do about it. So noticing is the very first step. So where in your life do you notice yourself falling into the old neural pathways of negativity, of judgment of others or judgment of yourself in ways that are negative? When something happens in the world, or when you hear the news, or you see an image of something, when your colleague at work snipes about something that is happening, what does your brain say? Just pausing for just a split second, just a moment to notice what your brain is saying is an enormous step forward to being able to change pathways and to quite literally rewiring your brain circuitry. So try that for a day. Try that even for an hour, for 1 hour. From 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the morning, you're going to notice every time a negative thought enters your brain and see how many you can catch yourself thinking in that time frame. You might want to write them down. You might want to record it somehow. You might just want to count how many times, never mind the subject of it, because that's not the point. The point is just to notice when it happens. And when it does happen, and it will, don't beat yourself up over it. No judgment about it, because that defeats the purpose. It's just an awareness. Just notice, aha, there I go again, thinking that negative thought. Isn't that interesting? and just see what happens. So maybe count them, or maybe record them somehow. Just how many times you actually notice. So you can do that quite easily. No one will know what you're doing. This is experimentation with self-improvement. Start with an hour, and then maybe expand it to 2, maybe a morning, and then maybe a whole day, and then expand it further until you're used to being aware of what you are thinking. And what this does is it brings you into the now. It brings you into the very present moment, which is what the mindfulness movement is all about, what Eckhart Tolle is teaching, the power of now. It brings you into the present moment, and very often the negativity lessens a little or evaporates a little once you begin to see what it's doing. And once you begin to see what effect these thoughts are having on you and by extension on those around you, it's utterly fascinating. I love this stuff. I love what the brain, the power that our thoughts have over us and over the people around us and over our lives, and how we can shift those with a little bit of intentionality. So noticing is the first step, practicing, noticing, and keeping track and paying attention to what you're thinking right in the moment is step number 1. The next step is to practice gratitude. And I know I've talked about this before. It's kind of a theme of mine, but what are you grateful for? What can you notice again in the moment, things that you are grateful for, during your day? So remember, we're rewiring the brain. So it takes time and it takes practice, a whole lot of practice. And again, don't beat yourself up when you fall back into that old trail. Just notice and reroute yourself. This will get easier and easier. It's somewhat like meditation. It is very difficult if you try to meditate quietly for 20 minutes or so. It is very difficult not to think about anything. And when you do think about things, it's very difficult not to latch onto those thoughts and follow them, rather than to just watch them float by. It takes years and years of practice. So this is kind of the same thing, but it does get easier and easier. So, what can you do instead of falling into that same old worn out thought path? What in the moment can you find to be grateful for? It might be as simple as, well, I woke up this morning, or I enjoyed my cup of coffee this morning, or the bus driver smiled at me, or the sun has come out, or the rain is feeding the flowers. There are countless things to be grateful for in every moment, but you need to seek them out if you're used to not paying any attention to them. Research has been done in everything from quantum physics to happiness, and to what makes us happy, and that what makes us happy indicates that positive energy is healthier than negative energy, that a default positive attitude can create resilience, can create compassion, can create more confidence in who you are and who you project to the world. There are lots of really good reasons to try to bring more positivity into your life and into your workplace. And with the state of the world as it is right now, with widespread famine, with devastating war, with political turmoil, with every other person I know coming down with a cancer diagnosis or some other awful illness, natural disasters, nastiness of people on social media, we could all benefit from more people doing what they can right now to spread positive energy around. In fact, it's getting to the point where I think it's critical that we do. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this, and I ask you to share the love and share this episode, please, with others in your life and in your workplace. You can click the share buttons at the bottom of the show notes at communicationdiva.com under the blog or the podcast in episode 124. You can also follow me on Twitter at JENN Swanson and then the number 2, so at Jenn Swanson 2. On Twitter, and I will be sharing this episode and others there. So if you come on over to follow me on Twitter, then you can share the episodes. You can also share it from many of the platforms that we show up on: iTunes, Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio. There are a number of other podcast platforms that we are on. And so wherever you're listening to this, it would be great if you would leave a comment or share this with someone else. Your help in sharing this show is what I count on, and I truly appreciate you doing that for me. It won't take very long. And I will be eternally grateful for that. So until the next time, this is Jenn saying keep your chin up, smile, and do something sweet for someone else today. It'll make you feel good, and it will bring more positive energy into this hurting and broken world. Talk soon.